Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill, Season 2.
Yep, Campfire Cooking, Season 2, Episode 8. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. Age, we're back for more Anime Night in the dojo, and well, last week, a princess from another world was immortalized in cookie form, and nobody can stop her. And that's how Wendy took over whatever this world is. I mean, just some of the absolutely ridiculous stuff. It's just like, yeah, I don't know how to explain mascots to people, so yeah.
Yeah, it's whatever the hell you think it is.
Pretty much. So that was pretty damn funny. But either way, Makoto is now an A-rank adventurer. He has a gold card now. Elron pulled off the switcheroo of the series so far. Just in and out, boom. You can't stop him. You're taking that A-rank card and there's nothing you can do about it. So there was that. The shenanigans continued. We had some traitor-esque nonsense with the gems. That was neat. And now Makoto wants to have a barbecue, which again, Sui should probably be able to handle it because, let's be real, making a barbecue is pretty simple. It's just a bunch of bars over a pot. You know what I mean? So, either way, the madness will continue. The journey to the sea, I'm sure, will probably be getting out of this town at some point in the next episode or two here. And then based on just what I read in the source material, they'll probably have like a pit stop in that other town and then hit the sea by the last couple episodes here. So it should be interesting. But yeah, not really a huge amount we can really speculate on with this series for what it is. If they do start getting into the like politics and the other heroes that were summoned to this world and stuff like that, we'll just have to see what comes of that. But again, we are coming up on the end of the source material, so we're going to be waiting a little bit for any of that. Source material or otherwise. So that being said, we're going to go ahead, push some buttons, and get going here. So people on Patreon, we'll see you on the other side of the edit for the time reaction, and people on YouTube for the discussion and review. So here goes something. Well, alrighty then. There you guys have it. What did we learn? Don't ask for a grill in a dungeon town where most of the blacksmiths want to make weapons and armor. Because then you have situations like this. Yeah, just saying. Age was all over that one. That was pretty hilarious. But yeah, the face says it all. But we talked a little bit about it at the end of the reaction there, where like this episode starts off with like Makoto talking about burnout, and some people might question that. But once again, Makoto's basically cooking for a small army. This is not just like him cooking for himself, his wife, his girlfriend, maybe like a kid or two every day. While we haven't seen it like overly shown, the amount of work Makoto has to do, especially now with, it was already bad enough with just Fel, because they showed it off when he first meets Fel, how much cooking he actually had to do to satisfy him. And on average, that's probably about how much Fel eats. You know what I mean? Well, they might show like the one bowl and then when he asks for more, that kind of thing. But just for a creature of his size, the proportions are pretty serious.
Yeah. You
add Sui, who's a slime. It's probably not as much as Fel, but it's a slime, and it's a big slime. So,
Well, slimes in a lot of fantasy are typically capable of literally eating indefinitely. Like, just as long as they keep getting provided sustenance, they can keep eating.
Yeah.
That's why, the whole thing I've mentioned before of, like, in D&D, freaking brown molds. You never give them access to some sort of perpetual fire because they will just infinitely eat and replicate.
Yep. So, yes, the amount of cooking Makoto has to do is literally pretty much a full-time job. And then to top it off with a side hustle of taking orders from the gods that we saw, it's pretty ridiculous. You know what I mean? He needs to find a way to, I don't know, go full, like, just refrigerator mode and just be able to cook in mass quantities and just kind of, like, give himself a couple days off. Kind of like what he did for their dungeon run. You know what I mean? Like, pre-prep stuff, and just be like, okay, just find a way to just do a thing in mass quantities. But we'll see if anything comes of that.
Which he already does kind of have going for him in that, once again, the freaking the item box is stasis, so he can store things indefinitely in it.
Yep. So we'll just have to see what comes of that. But burnout is very real. You know, even for just like average everyday stuff, sometimes you just, you know, have a cup of noodles. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. I'm sure most people have experienced that. But as much as I do like to cook and stuff like that, we don't do it every day. Sometimes we just have like a hot dog or something. You know what I mean? Just stuff that's frozen, whatever. But it's, yeah, I can only imagine Makota's situation in all seriousness. Even in a fantasy world where, you know, his stats are increased and stuff like that, and he has like a higher strength value, stuff like that, higher stamina, you're still gonna have, well, what's that thing Mimir says in Ragnarok? It's a different kind of tired lad. So
yeah.
But either way, another solid episode for what it was. We went more into the like dwarf and booze stuff. I question whether this guy is the best blacksmith in Dolan, considering the state of his shop. But since he just got a 300 gold commission, you would think he'd be in better shape. But we didn't really delve into his whole situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it still very well could just be a thing of he doesn't really care for money.
Yeah.
It's like, Makota pointed that out here, that like he didn't seem to have any real care for money in the first place. All he was really doing it was for the booze.
Yeah. Which, totally fair. But I would counter with the argument, if you have money, you could buy whatever booze you want. But that's just who I am. There are plenty of people who would rather be gifted something in not money form and not have to make the choice themselves. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's about the item itself, not just being handed, hey, here's $50 and buy whatever you want kind of situation. So
yeah,
everybody has their own preferences for that kind of thing. But it's
well, dwarves are a pretty long-lived species. They're not like they're not like ageless the way like elves typically are, but they could still typically live several hundred years.
Right. So either way, I think they kind of probably just went with this this character just so that you don't want everything to fall to Sui, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is totally fine, because at a certain point it becomes like Momo's thing in MHA. She could just create whatever she wants, but you know, she still supports shopping and actually buying stuff, because then there'd be the downfall of the economy if Sui was just making everything. So
yeah, I mean, they've got plenty of money to be spending on stuff like this, and while Sui is very capable of creating stuff, Sui doesn't really have much in the way of imagination, so trying to come up with something without a blueprint or something to copy is a bit much to ask of Sui.
Right, and let's be real, the only material they have on hand right now is mithril.
Yeah.
So
which is also another reason why to not have Sui do it, because, as Makota says, mithril doesn't conduct heat.
Yeah.
So you can't really use it for grilling or anything like that.
Right. So that's kind of out the window until they go mining. We haven't really seen a place that just like openly sells random like raw materials like that. Do they have a Costco in this world? But,
Ors are us.
Yeah, Ors are us, something like that. But so at the end of the day, there are multiple different reasons why Makota would have to go to the Crunchyroll player and tell it to F off. But to actually go to an actual like specialist to do stuff like that, because again, you want to support the economy with your tremendous wealth, and B, you know, the only material you have on hand is mithril. So Not going to use mithril for something like that. It made sense for like the cup and plate and stuff that he did at the end there for the reasons that he pointed out, doing the whole bartender thing. That's a brilliant use for mithril.
Yeah, if anything, it actually makes more sense to do the mithril silverware. Now that he mentioned the whole thing of mithril not conducting heat, so therefore it'll keep your drink frozen.
Yep. So there you go on that one. That makes perfect sense. And that was, I think this was probably a fairly underrated moment in just the entire episode, with him just kind of piecing out, as we can see on this frame. That's him. He's the green blur. What a fantastic frame. What an absolutely fantastic frame. Makoto is the green blur. Coming to Marvel Rivals in 2026. But either way, this whole sequence here, that was great. But just those kinds of things are kind of like underrated moments like that, and I appreciate stuff like that. The one thing I will say is every time they're cooking, like in a backyard or just like in the backyard of the inn or whatever, it always feels like it's the same town. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not, because the backdrop always changes. I'm not saying that, but it's just like everything in this world is uniform, and it creeps me out. How dare every stable be like 95% similar? This is crap. Who conforms to that kind of ratio? Everybody? Oh, well, okay, fair enough. So, but either way, this episode had a bunch of stuff going on, like the stuff with the gods. I mentioned like just small things, like, you know, with like Rusalka holding on to Ninrir so she doesn't like fall in, that kind of thing. They kept that gimmick going. That was absolutely hilarious. You gotta appreciate stuff like that. Just subtle attention to detail, like when the gods are upset, their little like speech bubbles have like pointy edges, and then when they're not, it's just the flat round edge, that kind of thing. Those kinds of things are neat.
Yeah, like they've done that a bit of that in general. Like it's spiky when they're like upset, it's round when they're calm, or when they're like super like happy, emotional, it gets all like bubbly.
Yeah. So either way, now they're making specific orders, stuff like that. They are gods, so they would be able to look into the tenants. You know what I mean? It's not out of the realm of possibility, and would totally make sense. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, from what we know, like tenants are just a fundamental system of leveling in this. It's just he's just weird because of the fact that his core skill is something absurd and unusual.
Yeah. So, for example, if he was a swordsman, if like his skill was like some kind of swordsmanship skill, in theory, he could pick between like something that like empowers wind as a ranged attack, or like some sort of like multi-hit thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like a classic talent.
Since his elemental affinities are fire and earth, if he was like a swordsman, he might get a thing to like be able to enchant his blade with fire, or be able to launch projectiles with his sword or something.
Yeah, but instead, since he has online grocery, he gets different options. And the fact that they were all planning around like which tenant he should choose is just like, well, it looked fairly RNG to me. So if there's say like 20 tenants in the pool, and he only gets 2 options every time, the booze one could end up being number 20, and he'd have to be like level 190 before he got it. Well, in this case, they made it sound like he might get it like every 20 levels, because when he hit level 20, he got it, and they said level 40. So if we're going to assume, then you could say if it's every 20 levels, which seems pretty reasonable for something like that. It might, maybe when you get to 100, maybe then it's every 40 levels, something like that. But yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's like tiers of tenants where it's like, once he gets to level 100, then he starts getting access to better tenants, but then it increases to like say every 50 levels or something.
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see if any more goes into that. The not being pushed around by the gods, gotta appreciate that. It's like, listen, I'm not doing anything that I don't want to do, so I can just give all your stuff back, which in theory you can. That's, a rule in general fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, you can rescind belief in a god, typically. Plus, also, like, even if you can't just outright give their blessings back, you could just refuse to keep giving them stuff.
Yeah.
In general.
I mean, what's the worst thing they can... Well, the worst thing they can do is just rescind their blessing, obviously. But other than that, all they could really do is yell at him. You know what I mean?
They could try to make life difficult for him by, like, say, blessing his opponents and stuff like that, but
which
in the end, it just becomes basically a freaking just a spite contest.
Right, which, to that end, temporary blessings are apparently a thing. So
yeah, divine inspiration, basically.
Yeah, so who's to say that, they go somewhere and all of a sudden the monster they're fighting has increased stats or something for that duration of that fight because the God of War is still pissed at you. You know what I mean? So with the advent of temporary blessings being a thing, that's another thing to kind of be on the lookout for as what might be happening. But yeah, so we had the shenanigans. That was great. He has to double his blessing amount now because of
his offerings.
His offerings. So
he didn't have to double the amount of offerings he gives. He just doubled the monetary value from 3 silver each to 6 silver each.
Right.
Which not necessarily means that he needs to give them more. He just needs to give them more expensive stuff.
Yeah, which at the end of the day, since we've talked about a lot of the economic impact and stuff in this show and stuff like that, so that is now 36 coins as opposed to 18. Okay, so if he does that once a week, that comes out to be about the amount that the average person in this world spends monthly. So that's kind of interesting thing to think about.
So I don't remember if we ever got it confirmed whether this is a 100-to-1 conversion or a 10-to-1 conversion.
Right.
So it's 10 silver to a gold or 100 silver to a gold.
Yeah, I think it was 100. I think it was the classic, 100, 1 kind of thing, and then the large gold coins were 10-to-1 that Elrond gave him because he gave him 380 large for the 3,800 that he owed him.
Yeah, so it depends. In say WoW, they do 100-to-1s, but in say D&D, it's 10-to-1.
Right. So if it is 10-to-1 on the silver, then that's 3 times the amount of the average household is spending a month. So it'll be kind of interesting to see. Not that he can't afford it. Again, he has enough for multiple lifetimes of just pretty high standard of living at this point, let alone just being the average and just being able to give the gods what they're asking for once a week, that kind of thing. He has way more than enough, even at a 10-to-1. What I mean, and just based on how not super against it he is, I'd assume it's the 100-to-1 one. You know what I mean? Because he's always very frugal about his money, and even when he was going to buy clothes and stuff like that, he even with the amount of money that he has, he's like, oh my god, that's 1 gold, holy crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he also has to be doesn't have to be as frugal with the freaking gods though, because a big part of his frugalness is once again he's trying to not flaunt his wealth, which he has had to worry about with the gods, as the gods know how wealthy he is.
Yeah. They know what's in his bag. Also, they spy on him when he bathes, but I think that was also a fairly underrated moment from this season. But yeah, so going forward, it will be interesting to see if they get more into that kind of thing. But got his grill, pretty solid. Did some fairly classic grill cooking stuff like that. That was neat. But here's the elephant in the room for this episode. We mentioned the Bell Cornell bonus, that kind of thing, how Bell and Danmachi just ranks faster than everybody else, that kind of thing, because he has an S in the growth stat.
Yeah, he has S growth across the board, whereas everyone else usually has variables, and like getting even one S is usually pretty rare.
Right. So, either way, again, if he doesn't see this, and this show has the attention to detail, like I mentioned it during the live reaction, is like, the dwarf's going to notice that this cup's made of mithril, right? I'm going to be moderately offended if he doesn't. And he did, so bravo. But it's right there on his stat sheet. He's going to see it.
This is a question of when's the next time he checks his stat sheet.
Yeah, or just doesn't even like gloss over it. You know what I mean? It has to happen. But to that end, I'll say this. Double almost nothing is still almost nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He went up like 5 levels in the dungeon. Okay?
Yeah, no, he's still going to have to actually do stuff to gain levels, but he will gain levels much faster now. The majority of him leveling up, I'd wager to say, was because he killed the Mimic by himself. That was probably it. Yeah. You know what I mean? If he gets any residuals from his familiars, which it doesn't seem like he does, it seems to be like the only things that he like actively participates in, kind of like in the sense of like a gaming sense, like he tagged the mob, you know, like when the Spriggans were beating on his perfect defense skill, he probably got experience for that because he technically did something in the fight. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Yeah. So I still say double of almost nothing is still nothing. It's like, oh man, he'd be level 28 right now. So it will be interesting to see what comes of this whole thing, just in general. Yeah, well, like they said, it's sure he's not going to push himself, but they're just still going to do what they can to nudge him in the direction of leveling up faster.
Right. So at a certain, what I kind of want to happen for this, from a personal standpoint, is something stupid's going to happen where he gets a bunch of experience, and it's just gonna pop, like the tenant screen's gonna pop up. It like he can choose another one, and then he's gonna see the thing, and he's just be like, "Hey," you know what I mean?
Where'd this come from?
It's just like, wait, I already hit level 40? How? And then it's gonna be like, damn you. I can't believe you guys have done this.
Yeah, once again, all their agreement is just that they wouldn't pester him about leveling up, but that doesn't mean they can't do stuff to they can't manipulate things to speed up the process.
Yep. It's kind of like, you know, Alistair's deal with Vox in the last season of Has Been. It's like, no, I said don't lay your hands on her.
Yeah.
You beat me with wordplay? That's right. Being technically correct is the best kind of correct.
A demon in hell is kind of my shtick.
Yep. So, anyway, another solid episode. And now Makoto is going to have to deal with, once again, we talked about it a little bit at the end of this, the reaction there too, was the fact that the blacksmith here does point out, it's just like, you know, it's like, I would expect no less from the guy who conquered the dungeon. It's like, how do you know that? It's like, well, not only does word get around very fast because of their mail system being instant, so like when Vanessa sends the letter to Michaela in that skit, you know what I mean? She got it immediately. You know what I mean? Because that dude in season 1 that
she found out that day about the whole thing of her running into Makoto again.
Yeah, it's probably just kind of like, I don't even know because they haven't gone into it, but just based on whatever, I don't know if they have to take it to like a post office. Maybe just everybody has like a message skill where they just send it and it just like appears by the person. I don't know.
I assume it's a thing of like they have an actual like mail service, and the mail service is just ran by like mages who have whatever the message skill is.
Yeah, it's probably something to that effect. It's not as bad as the Crunchyroll player, though. That's twice in less than 20 minutes. That's crazy. But either way, what we're getting at here is the fact that, you know, Makoto is coming to that realization of, like, you know, people know about us. And they kind of had that, like, offhanded thing of, like, you know, the more people know about them, the less they'll be able to just live their carefree, just nonchalant lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if too much word gets around, then there's always the possibility of the freaking corrupt king coming around again and basically demanding that they help.
Right.
It's like, I summoned you, therefore I control you.
Yeah.
Kind of shit.
Which, to be fair, that royalty just gave him that 20 gold and sent him on his way. So you could argue that it's like, hey, no, you let me go. That's over.
Yeah, but it's still something that would need to be argued. If they see like there's actual any use in potentially bringing him back, they'll try it.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see if they get into those kind of politics, that kind of thing. I don't think there's a wrong answer to that. They could just keep doing this, or they could explore that whole other worlder stuff that was going on with the politics and the other nations and stuff like that. It just really depends on what the author wants to do. And again, by the end of this season, we'll have caught up to the source material, so we're going to be waiting a minute. So we'll just have to see. This author isn't pumping out content like chapters like, you know, the Gachiakuda author. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. The Sakamoto Days author, that kind of thing. So we'll probably be waiting several years before we get season 3 of this, let alone even like a couple more chapters to read. You know what I mean? I believe there are only like 4 or 5 chapters this year. You know what I mean? So, but either way, still very solid show. I'm enjoying everything about it. And, it'll be interesting to see what potential different things they go into. But for now, we need to get to the ocean, and that's going to happen before the end of the season here. And we'll probably, with the advent of word getting around, will probably be him thinking to himself, at the very least, we need to get out of this town.
Yeah, he was sitting there thinking to himself of like, well, where does the adventure go to next? And he was obviously just kind of thinking to himself, but clearly the answer is the ocean, because once again, freaking the moment he starts questioning it, around felt immediately going to jump on him like, did you forget where we were going?
Right, yeah. So, either way, another solid episode. Loving everything about it, and there's a lot of intrigue here. So, gotta appreciate that as well. So, I assume we'll be saying goodbye to Dolan here in the next episode here, and if they do hit that pit stop, I forget what the last town before the ocean was. I think it was a pottery town, I believe. So, you know, that could have some like interesting pit stop implications based on what's going on right now. And then the last 2 episodes or so will probably be the ocean. So,
yeah.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube, beyond however you're watching, as always, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging with us here in the dojo for more anime night in the dojo. And this was Campfire Cooking, Season 2, Episode 8. So have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. See you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.